in this lesson, we will talk about emails. We can automate all sorts of email clients. That is Outlook, Exchange, Gmail, or any other email client a human can operate. In this example, we will use Outlook as that is the most common. However, they are pretty similar, so if you can do this, you can do all of them. We will choose an automatic activity, that is a UiPath activity. Instead of, we could also create a robot that will click, click, click through each of the emails and then save the data for each one of them. However, that will not be a very fast solution, neither will it be a very stable solution. So let's not do that. We go to UiPath, and first we drag in a sequence. This one will be our main sequence, so we'll call it main. Then we can find a get Outlook mail messages here. And this is an activity, you can see it's quite flat, there's nothing really in it here. But in the properties, we got all the information typed in as we wanted. The account, that is just this account here in Outlook. RPA test at @clo_dk, that's the email account you want to automate. So you put in the account here, either in quotation marks and type it in, or more correctly, create a variable. Of course, we'll do that. So we'll press Ctrl K. We can call this str account. Then we go down to variables down here and type in a value for that. And that is, of course, the RPA test at @clo_dk, like this. That is the account. The inbox, that is the mail folder that we want to get the mails from. And here we will get it from the inbox, because we will get some data out from these emails. Then we have a filter. That's quite advanced, so we will skip that to the intermediate or advanced course. We can choose to, after we read the emails, we can choose to mark them as read. However, all ours are unread, but we could have chosen to do this, and then it will all be read when we got them here. We can choose to only read unread messages. However, let's just pick all of them. And the top number here, that is how many emails we want to drag in. We will just take 30, even though we only got 5. That's okay, we will only automate our 5 emails. Then the output, that's where all our mail messages get saved, so we can get the data out and either present the data in an application, in an Excel sheet, or whatever we can find out. But here we will create a variable, so press Ctrl K. And then we can call this, that is a list of mails, and you'll see why in a few seconds. So we created a list of mails, and if you go down to variables, you can see that this is a list of mail messages. That is a variable type that we haven't touched yet. However, it's quite simple to understand. Just imagine a list with bullets on, and each of the bullets that contains the mail message. So all the information about the mail messages is in that bullet. And what we'll do here to iterate through all these bullets is to find a for each. So take the for each, not the for each row, drag it in. The for each item, we can choose to change this. It doesn't matter what you call it. I will call it mail, as that is more descriptive, but you can just keep item if you want. Then we want to look in our newly created list. So start typing list of mails and then the tab to autocomplete the rest of it. Then we should specify what format this variable that we have in our bullets is that in, and that was a mail message. You can see that here, was a list of mail message. So what we'll do is that we'll go to the type argument, and then we will browse for types. If we can't find it here in the drop down, we can, but let me just show you. So we will search for mail message like this, and take the one under system.net.mail. Click OK, and now we're set. So now we are iterating through each of the bullets, the mails, however nothing will happen. Let's just try to write out the subject and the date. Let's start with the subject, so we find the right line, because we will just write it out to our console to begin with. So what we'll do here is that we will refer to each of the mails, so that is mail, then we will say a dot, and now we can see that we can actually write out the body, the CC, the from, the subject, and all that. And we wanted the subject, so we'll just do this. Now this one will write out the subjects of the 5 emails. So let's try to run it. UiPath will run in a few seconds, and we will have our subjects nicely put out in our output window, like here. You can see it here, 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 and here. That's good. Now we want to write out the date as well, so drag in another write line. And then what you do here is that we'll still refer to the mail. However, you won't find the date in this drop down, and what we'll have to do here is to refer to the headers, and then we'll say date. So this one will write out the date, and this is VB.NET again. And I'll recommend this book. I recommended it before. That is Learning Visual Basics.net. I will refer to it in the description of this video. So now we also have our date nicely written out. Let me run it, and we can see that we have our data here. So we have the mail and then the date. Let's try to type it in an app. It could be all sorts of apps that we wanted to type this into, but let's just choose a simple one, and that is Notepad. It's not very advanced, but it's a fine simulation for a more advanced app. So we will find a type into and drag it in. We will indicate the app. So click indicate, and then click indicate where in the app we want to type in. That's of course the text area here. And then we can type something in. However, something will happen as we need to address, because when we start to type in the first subject, for example, then this title will change, and so will the selector. So we'll need to take that into account, but we'll do that. We'll click the three ribbons here. Then we'll click edit the selector, and up here in title, we will need to, we can just take all sorts if we put in a asterisk. That means that we will take all titles. We can validate it and it will still work. So now we just click OK. And then we can start to type in. What do we want to type in? Let's just type in the subject. So that is again mail subject, like this. And then have an enter. So we will change a line every time we put in a subject. Let's try to run this flow and verify that we indeed can run this as well. So that is the first subject, the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth. Sorry. That's it. And now let's try to take it a step further and automate it to Excel. We want to save both the subject and headers in the date in Excel. What we want to do here is that we want to create, our strategy here is to create a data table. You know, that is a clone of an Excel sheet just in the memory. So we want to create that with two columns in subject and date. Then we want to, for each iteration that we do here, then we want to type it in that data table, and finally we'll write it out to Excel. That's how you go around it. So find a build data table, drag it in. We can choose the output. So go over here and create a new variable, Control K, and just say DT output. Then click the data table here and delete everything that's in it. Just click the cross here. I don't know why they keep having these examples. You will never use it. So we can have the date first and then the subject. That is both of the data type string. So date, subject. Always use strings unless you have a good reason not to. That is, if you want to do some calculations or something. Even if we have numbers, just use strings. That is a very good advice from me to you. You will see why when you advance to the next courses. However, now we have data table. Then we can start to, when we have this data from each of the mails, then we can start to write something into that data table. So what we do here is that we will delete this type into. We will delete these two write lines in a few moments. So we will find a add data row here, and an add data row will add a row into a data table. So we will specify what data table we'll want to add the data into. That is just the DT output, that one that we just created. And up here in the array row, there we want to specify what we want to add in. So click the three dots here. Then have the curly brackets. And the first thing that we want to add in, that was the date. So mail, headers, parentheses, and date, like this. And then we want the next column, so just separate it with commas, like this. And we can just type in mail subject, like this. This one will add in a row with the date and the subject for each one of the mails. So we'll do that, and we can delete these two write lines. So what we need to do now is just to write it out to Excel. So when this for each is done, we can collapse it here, then we want to write it out to Excel. So what we'll do here is that we will find an Excel application scope here and drag it in. I created a empty new Microsoft Excel worksheet, so I closed that one and I placed it on my desktop here. So shift right click wherever your Excel sheet is and then copy as path. Go back to UiPath and we'll choose to create a variable here for the workbook path. So down in variables, str Excel path. Then it's a string, that's fine, and just Control V, paste in the address like this. So now we can put in the address up here. That one will say that the scope, that is this Excel sheet. We will choose to untick visible. We don't want the Excel sheet visible. That's fine. Then we need a write range, to write out the data table. So drag in the write range. Where do we want to write out to? Sheet 1, that's fine. Delete the range, we'll always do that. Add headers, and then we'll say DT output. Over here, that's what we want to write out, the data table we want to write out to Excel. So let's run it and verify that we indeed can automate and save our data to Excel as well. We will run UiPath, and in a few seconds, or 5 maybe, then the workflow will be done here. We will open up our Excel sheet and verify that we have saved the data in the right columns and rows. And here we can see it. Let me just expand this. You can see that we have a nice date column and a nice subject column. That's it. That's how you work with the data from the emails. Now we can try to send emails as well. That's very easy. So let me I think I'll just delete this and create a new sequence. That's the easiest thing. So we drag in a new sequence and we'll call that main as well, like this. So to send a Outlook mail message, we can just search for Outlook, and we can see here that there's 4 Outlook activities. Get Outlook mail messages, that was the one we just did. Move Outlook mail messages, you will rarely use that. And reply, you will probably use it a bit more, but not that often. And then we have the send, you will use that a lot. So drag in the send, and here we can send an email. It's pretty very obvious. You just put in a to, a subject, and a body, and boom, send it. So what we'll do here, and of course we can do a lot of other things, but let's keep it this simple way. So I'll just send an email in quotation marks, just RPA test, clonus DK, oh, that was not rightly spelled. The subject, that will just be, hey, in quotation marks, hey, don't forget to have a good day. Here, and the body, let's just say kind regards, Anders. We could attach files, so if we have files in our workflow, we'll often choose to attach it, however, let's not. The account, we can specify that, and if we have just deleted our variables, so we will just create the variable again. That might be stupid, so str account, we will just create RPA test, then clonus. And you will notice that we could have used it here, but we couldn't be sure that the account was the same as the to. So let's just keep it as the account here. That was the account we want to send from. So here in the input, that is the str account, like this. Now we can try to run the file, and we will send an email to Outlook. And here we can see what we did wrong. We can see that we misspelled the account. UiPath is very good to have these arrows on, and you'll get an expert in solving them. So what we do here is that the account was wrong. Then we can go down to variables, and yes, I misspelled it. So we do this. I like these arrows, as I said, because they show you how you work as an RPA developer. I'll do a lot of these arrows every day, so don't get frustrated when you make yours. Let's try to run it again. And this time we should be able to send an email. So we can go to Outlook, and then we can see that the email is already there. Hey, don't forget to have a good day. Kind regards, Anders.